Hey guys, so in this episode I have on Kyle Harris. Kyle is an amazing musician, producer, sound designer, and artist. And Kyle has traveled the world doing what he loves. And he's worked with some amazing people, and he's got some amazing stories to tell and some very insightful ideas. And so here he is for you. Thank you all for listening, and enjoy.
I said so long, carry on, 'cause the devil wants to take me for a ride.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Get Your Act Together with Mike Bain. How you doing? I have here my guest for this evening. He's an amazing musician, producer, sound designer, Kyle Harris.
Hey, what's up?
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Thanks for having me, man.
How have you been? How's everything going with you?
Things are good. Things are busy. I feel like the world is back on in like the past 3-4 weeks, and it's like this new. We're like readapting right now.
Yeah, I was right before we started. I had this conversation with Kyle. You were asking me if I'm back as a comedian. Comedy's back, especially it's not back in LA, but pretty much everywhere else it's back. And even in New York City, you had pretty strict draconian laws as far as like performance. Most of the clubs were performing in the street. They lumped in stand-up comedy and burlesque and like stripping into one sort of performance and said, you guys don't get to perform. I don't know what they had against burlesque, why they threw that in there too. It's not like I can't imagine people getting COVID through burlesque.
I mean, the burlesque should go on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Burlesque needs to continue. Power through the world. The people need their burlesque. You know, like first. There needs to that would have been like. I mean, maybe I guess it's like good to see that like they're not picking favorites.
No, I am amazed by the amount of people who do go to burlesque shows.
When was the last? Have you? I don't know if I've ever been to one. No, I've never been to a burlesque show.
I only know of the burlesque community because there were times where comedy and burlesque would overlap.
Okay. And
you would go to a show and it would be burlesque and comedy, and whatever end comedy always sucks. I'm going to be honest with you. If it's ever music and comedy or magic and comedy, it fucking sucks. I promise you. There's nothing worse than being a comedian and doing stand-up on a concert or in a music venue where there's music going on.
I could see that because it's like, I mean, that makes sense to me just because of the sheer scale of the production. Like when you have like full super loud band and then one mic comedian, just like the contrast is so dramatic that could just like probably be awkward. But I think burlesque and comedy show, now there's an idea.
With the right comedians. I've seen it with the wrong ones too.
Okay. It could get awkward real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you have a guy who comments on the size of the tits of one of the performers, things can get weird.
Yeah.
How's things going for you? You're back? Is music for you? You're back performing live?
I have my first show booked, but I haven't done it yet.
You nervous?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. I am because it's like it's not like the bread and butter performing I've done in the past, which is like acoustic drum set. It's like my solo stuff. So it's like it'll be like it's gonna be my first solo show.
Really?
My first show back is my first solo show, and it's like super tech heavy. So I'm like, oh shit, are like my computer gonna melt? And we'll see, but. I'm like prepping. I've got like a live stream on Saturday, and I've done one other live stream with the set. So I'm like building up to it to work. But I think it's like a big friend bill. So it's going to be like a lot of fun. Yeah. But so it's going to be great. I'm feeling good about it. But yeah, like bizarre going from like playing in like with groups to just like a solo thing out of nowhere. But I got it. But you can give me some tips on that because that's like your bread and butter.
Dude, that's always something that I was envious of musicians and guys in bands is that if you bomb or fail, there's 3 or 4 guys up there who you all go back to the tour bus or drive home together and go, whatever. But when you bomb as like a comedian, you're a solo dude. There's no one there to share in your misery. It's just you going, I fucked this up and I got no one else to blame. It's just me.
You got to sit there with that.
Yeah.
This is why I respect comedians so much though, because like It's just you raw in front of everyone, and if it goes bad, it's like there's even if it's playing music, you still got a wall of sound to buffer you to some extent. It's like different when it's just like if a joke doesn't land and then there's no noise, like that's rough. That's different.
I've learned to enjoy the silence. That's that's how you get over it, is to just accept silence. And all right, I'm not getting anything out of them. That's fine. Because there are times when if someone just doesn't like your material or what you're talking about, that's fine. But sometimes they just don't like you. I have a friend after a show, an audience member came up to two of the comics and she said to one of them, "You were amazing." And she pointed at him and she goes, "You were terrible. I don't like you. I don't like anything about you." Which is, there's that thing. I feel like this doesn't really happen as much in music where someone comes up to you and has to explain to you why they don't like you.
Yes and no. Like, that's aggressive.
Yeah.
That lady's aggressive. But in a way, I'm kind of like, that would just make me laugh probably because it's like so extreme.
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me either.
I'm just like, wow, that's kind of cool that you were that direct to me. But okay, lady. But I was just working on a project, like doing some recording last week, and my friend plays in a really great band, and she was telling me about this email they got from a fan who was emailing them, just letting them know all the things about their newest record that they didn't like, and how they should go about re-recording it, and what they should do. Yeah, like really specific details of like, it just sounds like there's too much noise in the snare drum in this section, and just like super detailed stuff. And they're just like, what, like, do you really think we're going to like take budget, go back, redo this record because of your email? It's a little extreme.
I'm going to be honest. They exist. Yeah, a detailed heckler is even worse than one who's vague, because they pinpoint that thing that you probably were thinking about when you were making what you were making. Like, is this good enough? Yeah, I'm going to go with it. And then they log onto it. And you're like, fuck. Oh man. How did you get into music? Where did your journey with it start?
Well, I started when I was a kid, playing when I was a kid, but I didn't really get started with doing it professionally until I was like early mid 20s, like 24. And I was actually on a different life path. I was working a day job in like a cubicle.
What were you doing?
I was working as a project manager at an advertising agency.
Oh, shit. Dude, I wanted to be in advertising.
Yeah?
Yeah, and then I graduated during a recession, and there was no...
no company's got budget.
I graduated in 2008, and I wanted to make funny commercials. I wanted to make like beer commercials for Bud Light, and I thought I could write them. And then I graduated, and they were like, no, not a chance.
Not happening. Yeah.
Did you like what you did?
I didn't like what I did. No. Oh no. It was.
It's good. I didn't get it.
It's getting you. But it depends what it was, because like if you were going the path of like writing, doing the creative work, like that could have been more fulfilling, because that feels more like related to your passion and what you do with like comedy. I was doing like as an entry level project manager at an agency like this. Your job is basically you're like an email jockey. You're basically like. You're filtering information. You're taking in information and then you're just like rewording it, sending it to the creative people to not piss them off. And then they're sending all the things they're pissed off at you. And then you're like rewriting it, sending it to the client to not piss them off. And so it was just this like constant, like, everyone give me all your shit. And I'm just going to like, okay, take out the curse words and say like, we'll try our best, like stuff like that. And I just like couldn't do it. It wasn't for me.
You were like a corporate silencer.
Yeah. The corporate silencer. Yeah. So, like some is called a closer, I was the silencer. It's just like, nah, it's, I got in trouble though, because I would always like side with the creative team. I'd be like, no, that's a good idea. You're right. Okay. And I'd tell the client like, no, we can't do that because this is the better idea. And then I get in like so much trouble. So like all the creative people like love me. And then all the account managers were like, who's this guy? Like, what's their deal?
Yeah, that's a true. See, that's how you know you're a creative, because I did the same thing when I was writing jokes or lines for a radio commercial for this car company, car dealership that was moving to Boston. They wanted someone with an authentic accent, and they chose me. And then my humor's dark, so I was writing some dark stuff, and I didn't want to do the hokey Boston shit that they wanted me to do. And I they gave me some lines to say, and I sent them back, and I go, hey, I rewrote these for you. And they go, no, we get paid a lot of money to do this. You're just here to say them. And I was like, all right.
Whoa. Whoa.
They said it in a more corporate way,
Yeah.
but that's that's what they said. They had someone do what you did, which is, I'm sure, tell him to shut up.
Yeah. Right. That I mean, it's like crazy in those like. But the thing about that industry is you get all these people who are like working in the creative like side of it, you know, and like, and there's all these people that seem a little stuck, you know, and like that are just like very creatively frustrated, you know, like, you know, as an artist, like sometimes you just get creatively frustrated, like living creative lifestyles and trying to manage like doing work for hire with your own personal stuff, and a lot of like just frustration. And it was a little dark. It was a little dark there.
Yeah.
But yeah, not for me, just not for me, you know.
How'd you get out of it?
I got laid off. It was perfect. They were like they were struggling, and I was hating it, and it just worked out in my favor. Where they were like, we're making cuts, we're letting you go. I was like, perfect. I'll just collect and I'll just go drum all the time.
So how do you turn that into a profession?
Teaching was the start. So like, it started, I mean, I figured out while I was still there that I was going to try to do teaching, because like I had figured out at a certain point with how much they were working me and how much they were paying me that I could work like a fifth of the time and make my salary, and without too much clients I'd have to bring in. So I was like, that seems like the right path to start. And then I just started like teaching. I kind of like, I just hustled, you know, like start hitting these like, you know, like pay per quote kind of services. It's called Thumbtack. And like, basically like if someone's like, I need a repair person, you're like, I'm the best repair person, hire me for this thing. And then I would just do that and like hustle. I went on a tour and I was just sitting in the car all day. And I was just like, anytime a request would come in, I would just like be the first, like immediately just on my phone hitting it.
Yeah.
And I like came back and I had students, and it would like started from there. And then I just like went up. I don't know. I just started a website called Boston Drum Lessons.
Yeah.
And I just like built it like unintentionally. It was like, just got lucky with the domain. And then it just like kind of like happened naturally.
Who were your students mostly? Were they music students? Were they Berkeley kids? Are they just people like, I've always wanted to learn the drums?
It's that.
That?
It's like adults. It's like people in their 30s and their 40s who are like, you know, like mom never let me have a drum set. There's
a lot of people who do comedy classes like that too.
I believe it. It's like, especially around here, you know, like we're over in Alston. So like I think in that area, like there's a lot of people local to that or close in the vicinity that are just like working professionals or something. And honestly, it can be great. Adults can be really cool to work with, because it's like everything is so meaningful to them. Like when they get something, it's like they're so psyched about it and so thrilled that they nailed it. It's just like has a deeper meaning, whereas a kid is just like, great, you know.
Because kids don't want to be there.
It's like another thing on the schedule for some kids. Yeah.
Plus, adults know how finite their time is, and they're like, oh, I want to learn this. I want to be like, at the end of my life, I can play guitar.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And adults are like the ones who are like, am I going to put the money down to take the lessons or do other things different? Like they're just committing harder. And I think they get that payoff more. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
How'd you transition from teaching then to the gig you had with Blue Man Group and performing?
Yeah. So, I was playing in a band, and we were rehearsing one day, and outside the room was this poster, and it was like a Blue Man drum off. And my whole band was giving me shit. Like, you should enter the drum off. You should fucking submit a video and stuff. And I was like,
what did they think you couldn't do it, or they thought it was corny?
I think it was, they thought I could do it, but they also, I think they thought it was a little corny maybe or something. Cause like, I also kind of think drum offs are a little corny. And
what exactly? It's just a drum competition, right?
Yeah, it's art competition, right? So it's basically,
yeah, we do the same thing with comedy. I've been in comedy competitions, and we all, unless you win, everyone goes, "This is fucking stupid."
Yeah, exactly.
Even the guy who wins before it, we're all sitting around going, "This is dumb, man. This is stupid.
Yeah.
This thing doesn't matter. It's just favoritism." You can't. Yeah. How do you judge something that's subjective? And then someone wins, and he goes, "Yeah, this is the real deal right here."
You get prizes and shit. You're like, Yeah, I fucking crushed it, man. Like, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, because I don't know what the comedy competition is with drum offs. It's like it's kind of like taking the whole art form and like trying to make it as like sometimes like still good but gimmicky. It's not like musical. It's not like really what it's about, you know. And so like
you make it digestible.
You make it digestible for the format, you know.
Exactly.
And like I think sometimes like people who are really, you know, doing music constantly, like they don't just naturally look at it as like it's promotional more so than it is like why we do it, you know, do this, do, you know, the music and stuff. But anyways, I was like, wanted the challenge. I was like, fuck it, I'll just like submit a video and then see where it goes. Submitted the video, made the semifinals, and then did it. You know, they then made it to the finals and then lost in the finals. And it was exactly that. All of us who lost were like, well, fuck that. He just was like twirling his stick. And then he did the fast double bass thing at the end, you know, and everyone gave it up for that. And like, but that was like a weird, I also dropped a stick, which sucked, which was like this, you mentioned the silence earlier. I felt like, also they didn't tell us, so remembering all this shit, like they didn't tell us it was going to be in front of 2,000 people.
No.
They just failed to mention that. And that it was going to be outside. So all these details. And so we like, I'm like, get on my bike to ride down there. And there's two other drummers who are also from the same rehearsal facility, also going down there. It's like, we ride our bikes down there. And then we like get there and we're like, oh shit. It's like this huge, like festival stage, 2,000 people in like the middle of Copley.
Oh, it was outside too?
He was outside. Yeah. And we were like, oh, that would have been cool to know that.
Yeah,
oh, well.
that means the homeless dudes can heckle you too.
Yeah, exactly. And like I'm playing my solo and like my stick just goes like flies away. And like it goes so, when you're outside, it just feels extra quiet, right? And it got so quiet, and then all I hear from the corner is one of the other drummers just go, oh, and I was just like, damn it. And it was so funny. Picked up, recovered. It was fine, you know, and it was like, okay, it was more funny and like comical to me, but that like the big, oh, in the distance was like, that made for a great story with it. But anyways, did that. And then like didn't win, but the guys who were judging like came up to me, who were all like band members, Blue Man in Boston, came up to me and talked to me and were like, that was cool. Like the drummer, his name was Randy Wooten. He's like, hey, just keep in touch with me. Just whatever, you know, didn't think anything of it. But like, basically a few months later, I hit him up because he'd mentioned, he's like, if you want to come watch like a sound check, Blue Man, like just hit me up. And so went and hit him up finally to watch a sound check and came in. And then like, he took me up into the loft of the drums and was like showing me parts and stuff and like breaking the part down and like explaining how it worked and stuff. And me just like, I was like, oh, cool. That's great. You know, like whatever, you know. And then the band's playing like pieces for me. And then I watched the whole show and stuff. And afterwards he pulls me aside and was like, there's going to be auditions. So, you know, like all those things I told you, I never told you them, kind of a thing. And so basically he helped me to get the job. He basically like saw me at the drum off and he thought I could do it and wanted to help me with a bit of things to go work on in practice, which was really cool. And he's been like an awesome like friend, mentor, and through all that. And yeah, I went through like a bunch of auditions, ended up getting hired, and then started.
Shit.
And yeah, it was a process, but
how was it once you finally got it?
Awesome. Scary? Yeah. Scary? Like, I mean, like, yeah.
So I've seen the Blue Man Group. A lot of people listening, I'm sure, have too. If you haven't, you should know who they are. But they do a lot of I don't know how to explain what they do. It's a show. There's a lot of percussion.
Yeah, it's a percussion show. Yeah.
It's I always forget exactly when drumming stops and percussion begins. I'm sure
it's all in the zone to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you just behind them? Were you off to the side and you were just providing backup, or not backup, but like, so they would focus on the three Blue Men and then you guys were giving them the soundtrack?
Yeah. So there's the three Blue Men and then there's like three band members up in a loft above the stage. And so we're wearing like neon suits with like neon tribal face paint. And we're like under black lights, like super like late 80s, early 90s zone. And yeah. And so we're just these like silhouetted, bizarre creatures and playing a huge drum set up there. And then like we're scoring what they're doing. So like, there's a lot of like Foley influence in what we're doing, just like scoring what we're seeing. And so like, and there's a lot of improvisation in the show. That's like why I loved it so much. Cause like it's when they teach you the parts, you know, like if you go do like other theater gigs or like, here's the sheet music, play the notes, don't deviate like your commercial, you know, it's just like, don't deviate. We spend a lot of time figuring this shit out. At Blue Man, they like send you like no one reads sheet music and they're like, here's a video of this dude playing the part, but it's probably outdated. So just try your best, you know, and you're just like, figure it out. And then you go in and someone's like, no, you're doing it wrong. And then you show you, and then like, it's just this very relaxed kind of natural way of teaching with the expectation that everyone will just be able to learn by ear and visually. And so then what that means is like, you end up getting like these different, like everyone has their own style. Like they encourage you to like improvise. Like I'd have directors come watch me and be like, you played the same thing in the same place 2 nights in a row. Don't do that. Like take more chances, like push it. Cause it gives this, you know, the audience won't know that's happening, but like if everyone in the performance is a little on edge, that it's felt, you know, they feel that. And that's like what the directors like were always after, like it being kind of risky in punk rock.
Did that intimidate you at first?
Totally. Oh yeah, it's like scared shitless. I mean, like I was young and like didn't know, you know, like with everyone there is like, you know, at least 10 years older than me, way more experience and stuff. So I was like super unsure at first. Just like, you know, at first you want when anything new, you want to make sure like you're doing it correct. So it was like this long process of like get the notes right and just like make sure I'm not fucking this up, and then like start to take the chances slowly, you know? And like some certain people, there were mentors to like guide that, you know, especially with a show that's been doing it for so long, you know, there's like, they have expectations of how it's supposed to be. So I think with a big historic show like that, where you're less in control of the creative content, at first it's like, let me make sure I'm doing this justice. And that feels like, you know, responsibility. When like especially in that position where like you're driving the show, like the Blue Men are the focus, but the drums set player is driving everything like musically and theatrically. How
did with you and your 2 other bandmates all trying to improvise, how did that work out? Was there butting heads over this, or did everyone just kind of, were you able to each do your own thing and work it out?
It's like there's always butting heads, you know, like but it's just like, you know, it's art. It's just like, it's all subjective in the end. Yeah. And like, you know, there'd be power dynamics sometimes and people thinking they're like, that's not how it's supposed to be. Another person's like, it should be like this. And you're like, whoa. And especially when you're like newer, everyone's giving you their input and stuff. But like, yeah, you know, you learn in an environment like that, how to just, it really taught me how to take notes, you know, and how to be like, oh, cool, thanks. Say yes, internalize everything. And then figure out like how you're going to apply the information. Like that was really rad, but there definitely be times where things wouldn't work out, you know, like there's times when like shit just breaks too. like that's part of it. Like things just fall apart sometimes in live performances, and it's like a part of it, and it makes it exciting.
You mean gear and relationships?
All of the above, yeah. I think that's true, like any show, yeah.
Very much so.
I mean, it must be the same in the comedy world. It must be dramatic and like full of
There's a lot of egos. There's a ton of egos, but it's more of there's never maybe an improv it's like that, but it's never, you're never on stage with the other person. Yeah. You might, someone like I did a show last night and someone comic who got up after me didn't like my set and then proceeded to talk about me during their set, you know, and I was like, I don't care. I'm very comfortable in myself now. And the fact that I had an impact on you enough that you dedicated your time to talk about me means that what I said went somewhere.
Totally.
And that's the worst thing you can get is no response.
Yeah.
Even if you get a response where it's someone who didn't like what you did, that's a response.
How do you deal with that?
Thick skin. Yeah. Just don't be confident. Know that you like your shit. That's what took me years to realize is I would, how do I explain this? I would silence myself or, I would do it on my own. I would come up with an idea and I would go, someone's not going to like this. the people wouldn't like this or whatever, but I like it. And I wouldn't listen to my own instinct. And then I would put something on. I go, well, this isn't getting anywhere because it's missing something. It's missing teeth or whatever. And I promised myself, actually, during quarantine, I had been getting better with it over the year, but during quarantine, I had this moment where I go, oh, my rule is if I come up with an idea and for a skit, for a video, for a bit on stage, and I like it and I laugh when I write it and when I do it, I'm fucking doing it. All right? Because I'm imagining, a lot of times when you make something, you imagine other comics, in music, other musicians, whatever art you're doing. You imagine so often your coworkers are your biggest fucking critics. All right. And then you picture them going, oh, that's hack. Like you were saying with the performer for the Blue Man Group. People are like, oh, that's not punk, dude. Or if you do anything they deem too corporate or whatever, or if mainstream likes you, people will give you shit. And I've realized that you have to get that out of your head because you're creating your own critics in your own mind. Now, Will they exist in the world? Yeah, absolutely. But they're not the ones. What I really remind myself is, you're not one of my fans.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I shouldn't be like you're probably not going to be right for some 80-year-old church woman from Alabama, right?
That's my bread. That's actually my bread. That's what I do now, actually, since COVID. But
so once you realize that, oh, I can't make everyone like my stuff.
Yeah.
So why am I worrying about the people who wouldn't buy my product anyway?
Yeah.
It's like if you're a baker, you shouldn't be worrying about people with gluten allergies, right? Just make bread for the people that are going to eat bread.
That's like, I totally feel that like really deeply. And I know like all my friends who are in the arts, like this is like always like topic of conversation to some extent. Cause it's like, it sounds so simple, but it's not. It takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of fight.
It takes a lot of fucking work and a lot of practice to be able to approach creating that way, because like, you know, once the art is done, it's like easy to look back, or if you're external to the process, look back and see like, oh yeah, that was a great choice. But in the process, when you're coming up with it and it's brand new, you have no like continued exposure to it. Like that's how you end up liking stuff. You just expose yourself to it more often. Like
exactly.
Like, and that lets you know if it's good or if it's not. But like in the moment when it's like brand new and you're like, I don't have enough like consistency with this or like repetition with this to like really be accurate in determining it. It's so easy for the uncertainty of like comparison against your idols or things like that to come in and just like shaft your ideas. And it takes a lot of work to be like, I'm going to just keep saying yes and keep moving forward with ideas, and then like let the process weed out what's good and what's not.
It's also, don't be afraid to fail.
Totally.
Because there's this idea that we have when we see someone who's an expert or a professional or an idol we look up to, and you're always seeing their final streamlined thing. You're not seeing it during the practice or how many times they rewrote that song or that bit or the script if you're writing for a movie. The reality is you're going to do stuff, and sometimes it sucks, and you just do something new. I've made so many videos over the years. Some of them aren't funny. Some of them I look back on and go, what the fuck was I thinking? In the moment, I thought I liked it, and then I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
And one of the people didn't like it. But you learn more by doing that.
Yeah.
Not everything is going to be a hit. Not everything's going to be a banger. Dude, people in music have made entire careers off of one hit.
Oh,
so
yeah.
what does it matter?
Oh,
yeah. As long as you strike lightning when you do.
But we're not in control of what that is. Like there's so many artists who like a song they just hate their least favorite song ends up being the one that blows up.
Yeah.
You know, and like right, and it's like how it works is it's just like, but it kind of like strangely makes sense to me, because it's like all the stuff I listen back to that I made or recorded, you know, like when I do like drumming on other people's music, for instance, at a time, you know, like years ago where I was like, really wanted it to be good, had all this like eagerness for it to be good. And then I listen back and I'm just like, it just sounds like everything I didn't want it to be. It's just like, it's like stiff, forced, unnatural, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because of like the approach, the whole intention of like being like, it's got to be good. I need it to be good. And when you can step back and just say like, what is exciting to me? What's fun for me? and what makes me laugh or what makes me feel excited. And when you learn to really like be aware of that, that's when you start making cool stuff. And then the process of it, I think, just gets so much more like enjoyable.
It's similar to when you're young or you're a teenager and you don't know who you are. So when you're 14, you don't know who you are as a person. So you put on an idea of what you think you want to be, and you feel rigid in your own skin, and you're always worried about impressing someone. And eventually you become an adult and you go, I know who I am. I don't care. I know what I am. You go through that as a creative too.
Totally.
Where eventually you figure out what your voice is or who you really are. And once you have that, everything else I think is streamlined. I think that's the hardest part, is
100%.
figuring that out. Who am I when I perform? And how do I take what I am as a person and then put it into what I'm giving to you guys?
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part. And once you get that, it's so much easier.
Was there a clear like era or time for you when you were writing, like where you felt that shift starting to happen?
Yeah. I got sober. I went to therapy, and I was getting out of a shitty relationship. That's
just life call.
There was. I've always explained this to people that are trying to be better at. I get this. I think this goes for other things, but I've always said this to other comics, and I said you got to evolve as a person before you evolve as a comedian or an artist or whatever. If you're stuck in fucked up inside as a person, you're not gonna progress. I think a lot of dudes romanticize the drug addict, alcoholic creative, and it's not that fucking is it fun when you hear stories about dudes on the road and they did something crazy? But eventually, that won't last. That will destroy you over time. That initial anger or whatever it is, or resentment or insecurity that gave you the impetus to start, will also be your undoing if you don't conquer it.
Yeah. No, I've seen it, like the point. I 100% believe everyone should make art if they want to, like that shouldn't be a requirement for everyone. Of course not. But like there's so many people and so many like drummers I work with, and people I teach that are like, I don't think I can do this, or they don't, struggle with that because they think they have this perception, this outdated perception that art or music is like this activity that's restricted for only individuals who are touched with the sacred gift of creativity.
Yes, they do.
Right.
Especially around Boston, I think.
You think specific to here, it's part of it? I'm curious about that.
I think so. I think it's very much kind of, I grew up with that. I didn't know anyone who was a creative as a kid. I knew no one. I didn't know any musicians. I didn't know any painters. I didn't know photographers. I didn't know anyone who was creative. Everyone was like, that's for those people. Shut up, get a hammer, get a job, work for the city, get in the union. And I think it's very much kind of I don't know. I think here, maybe it's just the environment. I grew up in Boston. That blue collar certain environment is like that. Certainly like that with kind of a Catholic environment too. But like, what are you doing being creative?
Yeah,
Stop that. What are you doing, huh? What are you trying to be different for? Shut up and sit in line.
Keep your head down and don't fuck it up.
Yes. I know people who are talented, and I've encouraged them to, who I was like, told my friends, you guys should Twitch stream. You guys play video games all the time. You're hilarious. Do it. And they're like, I don't want to be in the spotlight. I know so many people who grew up thinking, just put your head down. You don't want to be seen. And I fought that brutally for a long time.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think it comes from around here specifically, is what I've encountered. I've met a lot of people who second guess themselves, who kind of hey, I don't want to make any waves. I don't want to be seen, whatever. And I go, you don't, you kind of do, man. What do you have social media for?
Yeah.
You kind of do.
But it's safer there.
It's safer. Absolutely.
It's safer. You can turn off notifications there.
Yeah.
You can't avoid like not getting the laugh or no one clapping for your music or everything just falling apart in live or in person. But yeah, I think it's just safer. Like
but you're right. There's definitely an element of people who think that you have to be a savant, that you're born with a talent, and you're not. And I think it's kind of in the U.S. we all it's like, oh, we're all supposed to be factory workers. You know, we treat our lives, our country like it's a factory, and we're working on an automotive and a car. And all right, you make the wheels, you do the windshield wipers, you do this, you do that. You're an electrician. That's what you do. Why can't I be an electrician who also drums? Or why can't I be a plumber who also tells jokes, or who also paints or takes photography? You can do all of it, man.
There's this like 100%. Like I think like when you talk to other creative people living creative lifestyles, like you realize that everyone's kind of like got their hands in a lot of different places, because it's about like creating a lifestyle that lets you do this thing that makes you gives you meaning, gives you passion, keeps you from like being like self-destructive, right? Like that's why I do music, because if I don't do it, then like I don't like know who I am. Like that's always what I've done, you know. And but like that is completely separate from like making a living, like making money to survive, to support that lifestyle. And like I think just separating the two is different. And like a lot of my friends who have been creatives for a long time, who've often always kept, especially like this connection to like needing to like be the number one thing you want to do in your art also needs to be the number one thing that produces the most like money for you. And as me and friends have gotten older, we realize like that's not really always realistic.
And it can also make you really hate the thing you used to like.
Yes, it definitely can. Like there was a time where I was gigging like 5 nights a week, you know, for different artists. You know, it wasn't like my material every night. It was just like every week I'm just like cramming all this music into my brain, showing up, trying to like play all these songs and like get out for like, you know, $100 or whatever, and like live a life like that. And it was just like exhausting and frustrating, and just makes you like not want to do the music, you know. And it like took all that experience and all that time just like being frustrated for long enough to then just get to a point of being like, I can just try and figure out, you know, I don't have to do that for money. You know, like how do I've been increasingly like focusing more and more like what I reserve my like creative tanks for, or like my, you know, like my time for music. Like I want that to have the most like personal return for me, of like giving me the most meaning and getting me the most excited. And then all the other things I have to do to make a living, like I could do anything, you know, if I want it. I want to do music, but like I think that's like you could, even if you have a life path, you know, like even for anyone who's trying to do music or comedy or art or something, and are just like, maybe I'll get a job. It's like, sure, you don't never have to stop doing the thing that you love.
Yeah.
And I think that's like super important for people to know. It's just like, they're not like making art is just like a part of living, and it doesn't have to be like directly like completely connected to career.
No, it doesn't. You can do both.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were gigging and you were doing other people's music. Did that bother you? Or was it just, you know, hey, it's a gig, whatever?
I think it just totally it depended. Yeah. Like I think like at a certain point, playing covers a lot kind of would get under my skin. Like playing like weddings and stuff, you know, where I'm just like I don't even fucking like these songs. Like
I always wonder. I know, because I know guys who do that, and I've seen a lot of cover bands. And sometimes I go, so I've seen guys where I go, I feel like this guy does not want to be here doing this. And then sometimes there are guys that fucking love it. You'll be in like downtown Boston at Faneuil Hall, and you'll watch the dude who just did, you know, they did every cover. They did Backstreet Boys, they did Sweet Caroline, they then did a Metallica, and now that dude's making out with a drunk girl in the bar, and you go, this guy loves what he's doing. Like
I love those nights. Those were fun. But that's so connected to like the hang, you know. That's like who the people are, right? And like, do I like to play music with them? And like sometimes doing those gigs where it's like my friends who I know are like awesome musicians, and we all do other things where we're just like, yeah, we're just gonna go make like a little bit of money and like go to play this bar to a packed house, and we know they're all wasted and they have no fucking idea who we are and don't care, but like we can accept that tonight, you know. And
that is fun. I did this with my first show back from quarantine, and we're all show. I just get the booker just gives me the address, and all right, these are the guys in the show. And we all show up, and it's in a pizza parlor, it's in a restaurant, and there's kids. And no one knows there's going to be comedy, which is the first guy, goes up and he just announces it's going to be comedy, and he swears while he does it, and some guy throws a fit, and I go, I'm going to enjoy this. I think like the fact that we're all going to suffer together is going to make this enjoyable, because I'm going to enjoy watching you guys bomb just as much as anything else.
Oh man, that's the when everyone's not aware it's happening is the worst. Like I played, I got hired to like put a band together to play someone's like backyard barbecue, and it was just like, okay, sure, if you want this, we'll do it, and like. No one wanted it. Like no one wanted. Like we're playing on this people's back deck. Like, and they paid us as much as we do in the normal gig, right? And like, literally, everyone's just playing frisbee. We finished the song just like nothing. Like no one's even listening. No one's watching. It was just like awkward for everyone. It was the kind of thing where we're just like, well, there's free food and there's free beer. We're just gonna have our own time for ourselves and then leave and go do our own thing. But yeah. But there's sometimes doing covers, like I've been super fun. Like I spent 4 years playing in a Justin Timberlake tribute band.
Really?
Yeah. called the Timberfakes. and it was like, at first I was like, what am I getting myself into here? Yeah. Like it was like really weird at first. And I slowly like brought in a few like friends who were like great musicians to kind of like, lift it up a bit. And then it just was like, at a certain point, I was like, this is awesome. This is really fun. And like, because it's the same material, it's not like I'm like, I got to cram 60 songs in my brain for this wedding this weekend. It was just like same material, all of Justin's live stuff, which was like super fun because it's like really well arranged. Yeah. And we just put on a good show. And like the guy who ran the band, like knew how to promote and would like pack these venues for us and we would do it. And it was just like, it was a lot of fun, and I could like kind of drum like an asshole sometimes, which was fun for me because like Justin has these drummers who are like so much chops, they can play like anything in the world, and they'd like do like ridiculous things to me that were like they would play like this huge fill for like 8 beats into like one horn hit, so it's like at the end, and it was just like silly. I'm just like, why? I was like, I guess I got to do that. And it would just make me laugh every time. So I'm like, this is just like kind of douchey.
But those are the times you get to have fun because it doesn't matter.
Because it doesn't matter.
I did a campground recently.
Cool.
And it paid better than even comedy clubs I've been doing. And a lot of people will poo-poo that. I would never. And sometimes they suck. Sometimes it's not fun. But a lot of times they are. It's what you make out of it. Yeah. I went and I was like, you know what? I'm going to have fun. And I told a joke about how dudes don't get blowjobs after they get married. And this one old dude really hit home for him. And I had to focus on, his wife was right there and she was mortified. And I was like, what's going on? Like, how long has it been? And it was, oh, there's no stress here. I can just be a person with you guys and you can be a person with me. And it's chilled out. That's awesome. Sometimes those are the most fun ones, but people kind of, I don't know, people could think it's all going to be fucking glitter and gold all the time. And it doesn't. It doesn't always have to be the coolest performance you're doing at the nicest venue. Sometimes the most fun I've had is at a random bar on a fucking Tuesday. Yeah. And the people just want it to happen.
Yes.
Those are the most fun nights I've had.
Yeah. 100%. Like, I had a few experiences like that on tour with Blue Man, actually. So like one of the drummers on the tour would had this, he's from Vegas and he had this cover band that was kind of like, rotating cast of people wherever, and it was called Tinnitus. And we played heavy rock music from the early aughts. And he would just like, he's just like has the gift of like, he'll just book anywhere, and he would just like, anywhere we went, he'd find gigs for us. Like we played this like, he booked us this like little bar in Yekaterinburg, Russia when we were on tour. And in the middle of winter, it's like -20 outside. Yeah. It's Siberia.
This is while you're touring with Blue Man.
While we're touring with Blue Man.
Yeah.
And then we play our gig and then like we just like pack up, like we grab gear from the show set and then we just go to this little bar to play. And it was like the coolest gig ever because everyone was just like so pumped to have this, small city, middle of Russia, and they're like so fired up. And it was like not just like one of the craziest gigs I've ever played, where like people were like on the bar jumping and shit. Like like it ended up being one of the craziest parties I've been to.
Yeah.
Cause they're like, you're staying with us and you're partying with us. And like some dude broke a guitar over another dude later. And like all of a sudden everyone had wigs. And it was just like, you're like, I don't know how we got here.
Vodka.
Vodka. All right. It was the vodka. It was the vodka. But yeah, those small places are just surprising sometimes.
Small towns are great because there's nothing else going on.
Yes.
You're a big deal. And they always want to hang out with you and get to know you after the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, like, what are some of your top, or like, where do you go for small towns? Like, what is that like on the road?
A lot of times small towns I've done are just around New England.
Yeah.
But I've done like small towns up in the Northeast mostly. Most of the work I've done has all been in the Northeast, like New Jersey, New York, New England. And sometimes you get there and it's not fun. You know, sometimes it's real hit or miss, but sometimes you do and you go, oh, you know what? You guys were so much better than I was expecting. Kind of wrote you guys off as just like this little town. You're not going to get what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And you do. And it's great.
Small towns appreciate.
Yes, they do. They do. They really appreciate.
They really, like, on tour, like I've been in some smaller places and the people are like fired up and you're just like, oh, at the end of the show, you're like, I did not know you guys loved it that much. Thank you. And it's like, it's cool.
Sometimes in a place like New York or LA, they treat you like a court jester. Like dance, monkey, dance.
Yes.
And they're like, I could be doing 50 other things right now, you peasant.
Oh yeah. Every time I've been into a major market, it's like, they're like, I'm really busy and I really shouldn't be here. I've got a million things to do. And they're just distracted and like shitty audiences. They're just fucking shitty audiences. Like just not pleasant. And like the small towns, like give it up for everything. It's
do.
It's great. I love them.
So where did you tour while you were with Blue Man?
So start Russia, Canada. That's where I got the small markets, Canada. But then we did a little bit of Europe, and then we went to Saudi Arabia and China.
Shit. What was performing in Saudi Arabia like?
Fucking awesome. It was sick. It was so, like, you want to talk about small markets.
Yeah.
Like, it was that essentially every day, but not because it's a small market. We were in Jeddah, but because they had only had live performance for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. When we went, it was like all these people are probably going to their first ever show, like ever, you know, like, and people were fired up. Like the most consistent night after night audience I've ever seen. We spent 1 month playing shows there, and we're playing in a tent in the middle of the desert. It was very on brand Arab, but
did they segregate the audience by gender?
So Blue Man had gone 1 year prior to when we were there, and some people who were on my tour were there too, and Blue Man refused to perform if they didn't integrate. And
so, I know comics who've done Saudi Arabia, and
so it was fully integrated, and I actually went to a comedy show in Saudi.
Really?
Yeah, this comedian named Lil. Well, it's because I met Pauly Shore at a coffee shop.
No shit.
In Jeddah.
You met Pauly Shore in Saudi Arabia?
Yes. I'm not exaggerating. I can show you the DM I have with Pauly where like we like. You should have led with that. Yeah. So there was this like fancy coffee shop, and like I get in there and like, okay, if you go to like a restaurant or a coffee shop in Saudi at the wrong time, you might catch prayer.
Yeah.
So like businesses shut down. So like if you get into a restaurant and like you see curtains start coming down, you're just like, fuck, like it's going to be 30, 45 minutes before anything happens in this restaurant. And so I get into the coffee shop, I place my order, and I sit down, I see the curtains coming. I'm like, fuck, no, I'm going to be sitting there for a while. And so I'm just like there reading for a while, waiting 45 minutes for a latte. And like, I just hear like this like Southern California accent behind me. And I look back and I'm like, there's a fucking ginger white guy wearing a thobe, like the traditional like Saudi attire.
Yeah.
It's called a thobe. He's wearing a thobe, and he's got like white Oakleys like balance on his head. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
He's eating Cheese Whiz and saying, "I'm the weasel."
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, why do I know this person? Why do I know? And I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking Pauly Shore in Saudi Arabia. What do I do? And I text our like Blue Man band like group, and I'm just like, guys, I have a day off. Everyone else is at the show.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one that's like there. So I'm like, Pauly Shore is here. And everyone's like, fuck you. We don't believe you. Like, fuck you. Like, they're just like, they think I'm just like shitting with them because they're at work and I'm off. I'm like, no, I swear. And so like, I get up to go get my latte, and Pauly looks right at me and he's like, hey man, you American? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh cool, I'm Pauly. And I was like, yeah, I know. I'm Kyle. And then it got weird because like he was like, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I'm here performing with Blue Man. And the guy he was talking to looked at me, he's like, oh, Blue Man. And Pauly went, don't look at him, look at me. And I was like, oh fuck. Like,
dude, how I think you'd be over that insecurity at this point, Paul. Jesus
I know.
Christ.
It was just like, oh, okay. Anyways, like he was there to do a show. He offered tickets.
Yeah.
And he's like, get them tickets for the show. And I was like, and we went to the show and watched this whole thing. And like, Godfrey.
Yeah, I know Godfrey.
Yeah, Godfrey performed.
Godfrey's a hitter, man. He's good.
He crushed. Yeah, it was sick. He knew just how to like work that crowd.
Yeah.
And it was sick. But what was funny to me about the show was like the opener was a Saudi guy. And the jokes that people gave it, like Saudi culture for me, because so much they've been exposed to so little, like art culture, I feel like they all are where we were at in middle school.
Yeah.
Where like everyone loves like, it was just like Metallica, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Iron Maiden, like those bands, you know, like that's all the musicians I met, like that was the zone of like, like early aughts stuff was like what everyone was psyched on. And then like all the jokes that hit hardest were like yo mama jokes and fat jokes. and like a yo mama joke would land, and me and my friend would look at each other like, what? What's happening here?
Your mama is so fat, she needs 3 burgers.
Yeah, exactly.
What is a Saudi yo mama joke? I want to watch this guy's material so bad.
Lil Yasser, it was sick.
His name was Lil Yasser.
Yeah, Lil Yasser. Yeah, Lil Yasser.
Oh my God!
I met him at the coffee shop. So funny.
He's a Saudi Def Jam comic. Wow.
Yeah. Exactly. It was cool. Pauly was really nice, and we said hi after the show and took a photo, and it was fun.
Shit, dude.
It was just weird. Yeah.
What were the audiences like when you were performing for them?
In Saudi?
Yeah.
Just like crushing. Like they sang, they clapped and sang to stuff a lot.
Really?
Yeah. Like consistently. Like that was just like really cultural, and it was really fun. And people were super kind and grateful. And we did like a meet and greet after, and like just seeing the families and how excited they were was really awesome. You know, it's cool. It's cool to be in a culture that is like so different from yours like that. There's just this, you know, interest like on both sides. Everyone's like, what's your life like? And it was really cool. It was very special, a very special experience. Like I learned a lot, got a real accurate perspective of the people in the country. And
I've noticed every country has its own, an audience. The way they audience as like, I think people forget that an audience has a role to play.
Yeah. And
different countries, some of them really give it up.
Totally.
Some of them, and sometimes you're in certain places and they kind of sit back and give you nothing.
Yes.
You know, sometimes that's how Germans are. They think they're being polite, but they're just completely silent the entire time.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
That probably checks out for Germans.
It is. They're so fucking reserved. But they because they're like, oh, I shut up and I sit down, and that's what I do. And then at the end they go, oh, good show,
dude. So we were talking about fans giving notes. My friends who were sharing the email with me about like this person being like, you should record your band's whole album over, is a German person.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah, if we ever tour this project in Germany, like you'll see the Germans come up to you and like give you feedback.
Yeah.
like direct feedback after the set. And like it was good, but I think at the 3-minute mark, it was a little loud, and you got
they're very they're very, they can be very reserved in so many ways, but they're very forthcoming with their criticism of how things need to fit exactly the way they want it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You at least like, you know, it's very direct. So thank you for that. But
How long were you on the road for?
on and off for a year and a half,
Yeah.
not consistently, you know, like just we get to one market and have a long stretch, like 3 months in China at one point.
How was
straight.
China?
China was tough,
Yeah.
but awesome. Like I really like going to these, you know, not, you know, like not places I'd think to go to tour, basically, you know, that are, I'd think, more culturally difficult just because they're so different. And China is just difficult because there's just so many people, and it's just, it feels like another world. Like it's just hard to explain other than just like everything is just everything is a little different. And so you have to really adapt to how China is going to be and how they're going to work. And I kind of like that. You know, a lot of places you go, there's a lot of like accommodating, you know, Western foreigners.
I hate that so much. I'm the same way.
China's like, no, none of that. You know, like you're not going to get that at all. And it's great. It's really authentic. Good food too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How were the audiences?
Kind of rough.
So
Like-
when you say rough and tough, do you mean they just weren't giving anything back, or were they
Like
not
a-
impressed? Or?
Like a lot of people just on their phones, and not
Really?
that they're not enjoying it. It's just that they're just on their phones.
Is,
and like
is that a cultural thing? Or?
every show every person I've talked to who's like toured China has been like, yeah, they are on their phones a lot and distracted. Like one of the Blue Men in a show was like, there's this one, he was just looking at this girl, she's on her phone. And then at one point he just like takes her phone and he walks like halfway across the room and gives it to someone else.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So this girl had like no phone for the rest of the show. And that's like directors have been like, sick. That's great. Keep doing that. Like,
I want. You see, I used to live with a friend, a South Korean kid, and he told me that even if you're in class, that's how it is. People are on their phones permanently.
yeah.
Maybe it's more of an East Asian thing. That's
Yeah. I don't know. It was confusing kind of at the shows. Yeah. A little bit like just thinking that, you know, I don't know why you'd pay it for a ticket and want to be on your phone the whole time.
Yeah,
but
no, I've built so many concerts, and one of the reasons the concerts kept getting bigger is because, well, one, big musicians aren't making money off their CD sales, so they're making more money off concerts. But also, the concerts were getting much and much bigger in the past 10 years, and that's because when someone goes to a concert, they videotape the entire thing. And I've been doing Spotlight. I've been up in the rafters, and I'm working the front of house or whatever, and I'm looking at people who are in the front row who paid like, some people are paying like $5,000 for seats
Yeah.
at the Garden for the comfort. You get a fold out chair, but this one has a cushion on it, so that's an extra $1,000. And
oh yeah, that butt comfort, you know.
Yep. And they're on their phone the whole time. And I had my epiphany when I went to go see Roger Waters on acid, and I perfect timing of Molly and LSD, and we went to go see Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, and it was everything I wanted it to be. And at one point, my friend pulled out his phone, and I go, "Dude, don't do it." He goes, "What?" And he goes, "I want to watch it later so I can try and recapture this." No, this is a moment. This is happening. This is a one-time thing you get, and you get the memory. You watching it, it's never going to be the same. Also, you don't need to tell anyone you were here. Well, you can, but you can verbalize it. And every concert I go to, man, especially like Latin concerts. I did something for this Dominican guy named Romeo, who was a bachata singer. There, everyone was on their phone, and it was just, and I go, oh man, you guys are gonna fuck this. I did it once when I went to a zoo, and they ran a cheetah in front of me, and they go, "Don't try and videotape it because you're not gonna catch it. It's a fucking cheetah. It goes too fast."
It's just a blur.
And then I did it, and I missed it. I missed the whole thing because I was fucking with my phone.
Right.
And I go, dude, why isn't a cheetah in front of me enough for me? Why do I have to put it on Snapchat? What am I doing?
Yeah. Why, it's like why do others need to see that you did it? You know, I've done this too, like so many times where I'm like, oh, I want to post this and let other people know that I'm watching this freaking thing. And it's like, every time I film something,
Yeah.
you know, like a live performance, I go back and watch it. I'm like, that's a shitty video. Like,
Yeah, I do.
you know, like
I pick out everything. I'm like, the lighting's off. My audio isn't good enough. Fuck me. Every single time. And you know what? And the times I don't video it, I have like the best set, and I go, I hate me for not videoing it. There's no win.
Well, I think like there is something really nice about just letting it be a moment.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I had one of those last night, and I was like, oh, I didn't capture it. And I go, you know what? I was just happy having that there in that moment. That's why I think even after I got scared during COVID, I was like, dude, what if this doesn't come back? Obviously we came back, but there were moments there where I was just thinking the worst. I go, what if this is just life from now on and we don't integrate as people in public? And I realized you need moments. You need a live performance because you can never recapture that one night. I've worked with so many old roadies, and I worked for bands like Fish, and they have their people that tour, like not tour, but they have the fans that go from city to city and get fucked up and dance in the streets. And you realize, and you talk with old timers who go, they talk about a concert they went to. Dude, I saw Motorhead back, you know, wherever, back in LA in whatever year. And that was the concert. And they'll argue over which concert was the best for what person. You go, oh, that's because that was a moment. That show was a singular moment. And that one wasn't videotaped. There's no way to get that back. And it's fine for things to happen and then go away.
I think it's beautiful. Like, I love that. You know, like that I saw this artist when I was on tour, when I was in China, and it was this one smaller city, and he was just out there like with a big brush and water and doing all this calligraphy, and then over time it would just like evaporate and disappear. And, like, he was like writing poetry. I don't know what I was saying, but I asked someone and they were kind of helping me, and he's writing poetry for it to just disappear and then walk away. And I think there's something so important about art that is like not permanent, and performance is that for me. Like, live shows are 100% that for me. It's like sharing, giving this, there's like a scarcity to it.
Not everything needs to be videotaped.
No.
I you know what really did dawn that for me was while I was doing mushrooms, you know.
Oh yeah.
A lot of, I don't know. There's something about psychedelics and being creative, man. It really.
Oh yeah.
And I was
100%.
watching this documentary. My friend, same guy I went to the Roger Waters concert with, and I can't remember what it was. This guy has made 3 documentaries, and they're usually in Asia over the course of like 2 decades. And part of it was not a fun thing. There was a very weird, trippy scene there. But I found out that in Tibet, these Buddhist monks create these amazing, intricate, I don't know if to call them paintings. They're made out of sand, and the sand is colored, and they slowly tap, tap, tap. It's like a fine needle, like they're tattooing, tap. These intricate, massive designs, and no one messes up. And it takes them so long to make. And then they finish, and they blow it away.
Immediately.
They're just like, we did it. Beautiful. It's gone. We blow it away. And I was so taken aback, because I feel like in Western culture, we're obsessed with building permanent monuments to the legacy of what I've done. We're very much, I want to, every major influencer in our society and gets a statue, and we're held on to that idea of legacy, even though you're dead. You've been dead for 200 years, man. I think we can let it go.
We should. I totally agree. Like, that's such a Western phenomenon, though. Like you go out east, and like there's no ruins. You know, there's no ruins in Asian countries. You know, they just keep rebuilding and improving it. You know, they're like, oh, it's falling apart. We should fix the roof. You know, and then Greece is like, fuck it, it's fine.
You're right. There definitely is this kind of I've noticed this with certain, even in Boston, I was doing work in some houses in the Back Bay, and I remember going inside going, these kind of suck. It's like, these suck. They're old. Like, you guys are paying a lot of rent for some shitty fucking old building, dude.
Yeah. Like, totally. It's like, you can pay like $700,000 for like an apartment that's falling apart, and that's just like for location. I'll pass. But do you think that, like, for you, okay, so the point of like art being, you know, it being a practice, is really important to me in the same way that someone would practice, meditation or like practicing an instrument, where it's like you're not necessarily creating something in that moment, but you're developing something that is still like, productive and useful. Like I've been trying lately to think about the creative work I do as a practice. And it's so hard to do because I feel like this cultural sense of like needing to build monuments, like needing to create a work or like, like this,
a magnum opus or a monetary value to it,
all that, and it just doesn't, I feel like it just like stifles creativity. It just puts all the blocks up and it's detrimental to the process. And like, yeah, I think that's just like part of the battle. Like we're all like struggling. Like, do you encounter that? Like
when you say practice, do you mean practicing on your craft or practicing on yourself as a person?
I think it's all of the above.
Yeah.
Because I think like the thing I love about making art is that it challenges me to learn more about myself, to figure, like the more I understand about myself, the more progress I make to increasingly get more and more comfortable with myself. The result of the art and the result of like how good the process feels improves. Cause like, and I think it's all like related.
I've had times where I write a good bit and I go, well, that was the funniest I'll ever be. Which is such a dumb thing to think. I make a good joke and I go, oh, dude, am I ever going to overcome this? And then I'll have times where I think I lose my funny. I thought I lost my funny this year. I went through a lot of family turmoil and I lost both my jobs. And I was like, my life sucks, dude. Yeah. The world's falling apart. And I go, I think I lost my funny. And I used to think that when I lost my anger, I was losing my funny. I was always finding excuses for why I was losing my talent. And it's like, not, dude, you're not. If you had it, you had it. Mm-hmm. This is what my friend James always tells me, because I remember the first time I had a video go viral, and I go, dude, I'm not gonna. Missed my chance. And he goes, did you do it once? I go, yeah. He goes, then you can recreate it. Totally. I think so many people get caught up in something becomes a success, and they think, oh, I can't outdo this again. And also, why do you have to? Why are you continually on this idea? Why are you even comparing your own work to itself?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so hard. But like all our art is valued with a number now, or a lot of it. And I think that makes it super complicated because like, you can see directly what performed better, and then that gets dangerous because that can like be informative to help steer the ship in a direction. But like you're also going up against an algorithm, which isn't reflective of it's just it's delicate, I think.
Yeah, it stifles people from taking chances. Yeah. Like the thing you got to get over initially is the fear of failure. But what also comes back if you get successful is I've developed a fan base that like this thing that I do, but I'm changing as a person. Mm-hmm. So here my shit is changing, and they may not like that. And some people complain. There are people I've heard stories about. I'm not even going to name who. Comics, and also I know this of musicians, touring major musicians I've worked for, who have kind of been trapped by what their fans want and begin to not only resent themselves but what they do and their fans because they can't get out of it. Totally, they're afraid to step away, and I totally get that. I've talked with older comics who are sometimes as young guys we would make fun of the older guys, go, they haven't written a new joke in 20 years. But also, that guy has a career and a family, and he's busy all the time. Writing new shit takes a while. It's tough. And also, he might be afraid, now he's not a young dude practicing. Now he's a headliner. He's the main act, and people come to see him, and his stuff is different, and they go, that sucks. And now the booker doesn't book you anymore. Yeah. So now I get that feeling, and that can be something that holds you back.
Totally. That's like, it's super hard to manage.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's super normal to have this feeling of like, is this never going to happen again? Like can this be recreated? And like that, I think that's just because it's like starting over. Every time you make something, you're starting over after that. And you're like, you are just as good as your last work. Like, that's just how it is.
Absolutely.
It's how it is. And like, like it takes so much time to create. It takes so much time, and it's difficult to make the time. I think it's like, you know, and there's no perfection in it. You know, I think like I look at friends of mine who are just like creating constantly, and I look at friends of mine who are working constantly, and both want a little bit more of what the others got.
Yeah,
typically.
no, that's very true.
And there's just like, and I do the same thing. I'd be like, oh, I really wish I had more time, you know, to just like sit in my room and just like work on music. And other times I'm like, I really wish I had more gigs coming in. You know, it's just like, I feel like that's part of this kind of lifestyle that's so transient and evolving. It's just like, our careers fluctuate much more and we're oscillating back and forth, because at certain times where it's like, I gotta have product.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta dedicate time to have that product. Other times it's like, you know, when you're touring, you're performing and you're gigging, it's like, that's promotional. And so it's like, you know, we're each individually our own business.
Yeah.
And we got to function that way. And
you got to treat yourself like a product.
And it can be stressful sometimes.
It's a weird thing to have to do. To basically be a salesman for you. I mean, you kind of do it when you're dating, you know, in a way you are selling yourself when you meet a woman, but it's also you're fully monetizing who you are, which is a weird thing to have to do. I feel like you're pimping yourself.
Yes.
You know?
Pimping is more accurate. Pimping is definitely.
Yeah. It's like, hey, look at all I got to offer over here. Come fuck with this, huh?
Yeah. Don't you want
pay this price?
Yeah. Don't you want more of this?
Yeah.
Don't you want all of this?
I'm curious. So this is something I'm always curious with musicians. What is your process or the creative aspect of you even coming up with a beat or a song? Where do you begin?
There's no one way. There's no one place. Like it's, I think everyone has their own process and their own approach. Like for me, it typically starts with sounds that get me excited. Like I make my solo stuff. I make electronic music. So it's like different than when I'm playing with a band where I'll like, it's more collective and collaborative, and, you know, I'll inform like the arrangement or structure of the song, but from the standpoint of like drums and percussion. So, and that's like comfort zone for me, you know, like scoring stuff and scoring music with that, with percussion and drumming is like definitely my forte. But with the electronic music, it's like more infinite, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just like I could make any sound in a computer and I can go record any sound, and it just can be so far beyond that. Like I think it starts for me with like a concept for sound, you know, like if it's like I want to work with voices and water sounds or something, it could be like that. And then I can then work with that and create limitation, you know, like and create and work with less is really helpful for me. But like from there, then I basically just literally the process is just take my skull and bash it into concrete for months until it just like
sitting there tapping away on the drums.
Just tapping on the drums for months. Yeah. But it's like, it's one decision after the next. Like when I'm working on my own stuff, it's like, I think there's strategies you can take. Like you can say, you know, and people say like, okay, like build out your form structure first, and then, you know how the song is developing, and then fill in your sound design and layers and things like that. And that is a really good, productive way of working. Sometimes it just doesn't end up being that when you're in the process. And so it's just fluctuating so much. Like I've more like lately been thinking about it as like instead of pre-planning what I want how I want it to go, like how can I just dedicate time to sit in the chair and then make one decision and then make another decision? Because you're gonna make thousands and thousands of decisions when you're like writing the song, producing the song, sound designing it, and then mixing it. And like there's so many technical steps there that I think it's so much doubt through the process, you know, with every decision, that I'm kind of trying to be, you know, when we were talking about stuff earlier about like, you know, forcing ideas or versus like letting it when it's natural and it just comes out. Like I'm more trying to get myself in a place where I can just like let the ideas come out more naturally, and then just trust that it's going to be interesting. And that ends up being a faster workflow versus like trying to say, I'm going to make this kind of song that should, develop in X way and all that.
Yeah. The forcing, it never works.
Sometimes I've tried that, and it's on paper, it seems like a good approach, but in actuality, it ends up not having like all the stuff I've tried doing that way. It just doesn't sound as good to me.
Do you ever have a song, just the beat or whatever? I don't know how to fully explain it. Just the rhythm pop into your head? You're just walking down the street and you go, oh, that's what I'm going to do.
It's constant all
Yeah.
the time. Like I can just like think of music and sing it, is like, but it's generating it and producing it into the software. That's the thing that is weird, is difficult, in that like I can have the idea, but then getting it to sound like it was in my head in actuality is the hard part, because it's like yeah, because you're shaping so much sound, you know, with all these digital tools, that sometimes you can't get it the way that you're envisioning it, and either you just keep struggling and grinding until it gets there, or you have to move away from it. But it's that's the bizarre aspect of it. It's like, what, you know, like I think the more you improve, the better you get at being able to actualize what you're envisioning. But it's like, you know, it's engineering basically. Yeah. It's like you're in a computer with this really powerful software, and you're building sounds and you're combining them to create something like pleasing.
Did you find it difficult combining, so that in that digital aspect with, you know, real world drumming, you know, an analog instrument, would like match them together? Was that tough at first, or was it just make perfect sense?
So it was like there was like a step process for me. It was like acoustic drums for me is like my whole life, and I just kind of got to a point where I, you know, when you listen to like the same sounding drums, you know, there's varieties of drums that sound different, but like when you hit a snare drum a million times, you know, like you've listened to the snare drum a lot, you know, and sometimes I hit a point where I was like, I kind of like why I got into electronic music, because I'm like, you can have so much broader of a palette of sounds that are doing the same functions. And so it's just like, oh, you could have the same function of like a kick drum and a snare drum, like in a hip hop beat, but like, why not design them so they sound like a kick drum you've never heard before, or a snare drum you've never heard before? And what is the function of that? It's a backbeat on beat 2 or beat 4 or something, and that could be this, or it could be a water droplet, or it could be some other sound you create. And so I just got excited by the potential of sound design, and then I got these triggers, these drum sensors.
Yeah, I saw a video of that. So you just tap the drum the way you would traditionally, and it creates that different sound that you digitally created, right?
Totally. Yeah. So basically it's called sensory percussion. And what I'm doing is training this piece of software to recognize where I'm playing on the drum and how I'm playing. And then I'm taking pieces of audio, or taking like synthesizers and just digital tools that produce sound. And I'm like, I'm telling the software to play those sounds in very particular ways and change them based off of how I'm playing. So it's like expressive. And so basically that was like the thing that just like brought me into the digital world more, was just like, I can play the drums, but I can like set all these cool sounds up and then just play the drums. And it was a way for me to get my ideas out at a time where I didn't know how to like create for myself. You know, it was like a time where I was like, I don't really, you know, harmony and harmonic notation wasn't like a great thing for me, and I didn't really have like production skills at the time.
What is harmonic notation? Is that
it's like piano
music?
Like, sheet music, like piano music and stuff. And and I didn't know how to like produce in software really. So this was like a way for me to be like, I, you know, think about melody all the time, and I think about pitch and songs, you know, and drummers are super melodic in how they think, and it was just a tool to just like, I could just like improvise and like make songs with
you kind of shorten the process, right? Instead of having to add all these in later, you doing it real world right now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more like it can be more performative, like or expressive, like human.
Yeah.
Basically, because you can play it and it's elastic and not like just like putting everything perfectly in beat and stuff, which I love doing, but I like both aspects now. And so it was the catalyst that just got me into the producing. So
would you say you definitely prefer, like, of all the genres you've done, like electronic stuff?
It's mixed. Like I like doing electronic stuff now, just because I just am excited by like sound design. Really, like there's so much potential. Like you can create like whole other sound worlds of whatever materials you want. And some of the electronic artists I really love are like surrealist thinkers when it comes to production. You know, thinking in terms of like materials. You know, like one of my favorite producers, her name's Sophie. Like she has songs where it sounds like like everything is metallic.
Yeah.
So everything sounds like you're in like a metal industrial facility, but it's like beautiful and it's just really abstract and awesome. And I love stuff like that. But I still like love the roots of like playing acoustic drums. Like I have a new band called, we've just in the process of working on a record. The band's called Quietly. And it's we're playing like, for me, like my roots music of like hardcore music and like post rock and like big rock stuff. And that for me is just so satisfying. So I think it's like both to me are important. It's like I need the roots, my roots music and nostalgic music that I can then reinvent how I want. And you know, that's for me is like reminds me of like why I got into this. And it's just like fun. And the electronic stuff is more of a grind, but it's like a way for me to like push my skills and just like learn and get better. And I just love both. It's like, I think it's healthy. Hope it's healthy.
I mean, it sounds healthy, man. You're experimenting, you get in place. I like that idea. I like music like what you've been creating, electronic stuff like that, that the idea of having everything sounds metallic, everything sounds like water, everything sounds like nature. Because then it allows me in my own head to create. The second I hear it, I'll think of a color right away. If it's metallic, I have silver in my head. I'm picturing a room and a place. When something makes your other senses almost like taste that metal, you know, then you know someone's getting somewhere.
100%. That's totally how I feel. Like transporting, like put you in an environment. That to me is the power of electronic music. Is that you can shape that for people. Like you can get people to, like, you can build a world for somebody with the sounds, and it might sound abstract, but like, again, when you feel it, you know, when you're like, oh, metallic stuff, I'm in a scary industrial warehouse. And it's like, is this like a Saw movie? What is this? You know, it's like that becomes exciting. It's transporting, and people are generating that on their own. It's this totally abstract too. It's like a Jackson Pollock painting where it's like what you perceive is what you take away from it.
So what do you think's next for you? You're dabbling in all this stuff. What is your next idea? Well, obviously you're like me, you're coming back from COVID.
Yeah.
How's that working out?
Haven't gotten it yet. So.
Yeah.
It's coming back's okay. It's busy, you know. I feel like readapting to the world, but I'm psyched. Like I feel great. I feel like I learned a lot of shit through COVID, did some good self-work, and then like now coming back into the world, it's like I feel like a better version. And like I'm excited for stuff. Like I want to play shows. I want to play in front of people again. And I want to play like acoustic drums, and I want to do my solo. I want to do all that stuff. But like what's next is like making just keep pushing, you know, just like keep making music and just work on whatever the next project is. Like I'm doing some remixes for some artists, and then starting to slowly work on new material for myself. And I don't know what the future Blue Man is, but you excited to go back out on tour? Or you I'd be
road life kind of worn on you.
I would love to go back out on the road.
Yeah,
I think I'm like at a place now where going on the road would be even better than it was. You learn how to do the road.
Yeah,
for yourself.
Yeah, the road tackles a lot of people.
Yes, yeah, but that's where I'm at. I'm kind of just like keep pushing on everything, keep writing, and just try to trust the process. Yeah.
So you said they were owned by Cirque, so you're waiting for them to give the go ahead.
Bunch of clowns over there.
Yeah. I've worked for Cirque before. It's funny. I don't think people realize that when you're working with a Cirque crew, it's a lot of Quebecois rednecks.
Yes. Yes, 100. That's everyone. Yeah,
yeah. Every time they would come to Boston, there would be a fight between our crew and their crew, and everyone here would be like, "Oh, well, they're difficult." And I go, "We're difficult too. We're both assholes. They're French Canadian assholes. We're Boston assholes, and we're both butting heads." Yeah. And I can speak some French, and I would hear their French, and I go, "This is like." Wow, this is like talking English with someone from a Louisiana swamp. Like,
100%.
Occasionally you get like a rigger or some stagehand who is like a French dude from northern Quebec, and you go, I don't know what the fuck that was, dude.
Nothing. Like I used to work with a guy who like was from Quebec, and he would like, like, I can never understand in Quebec. And he would go, he'd be saying, like, he'd say something with a Quebecois accent, but I have no fucking idea what you said. And then he'd say something else, and I understood that. He's like, oh yeah, I just tried sounding like a snobby Parisian. I'm like, well, that's the version I understand.
They think speaking French like a Parisian is exactly that. Like if you speak Parisian French, then they're like, oh, fancy. Yeah. They do that fancy boy thing.
It's like us hearing, like fancy posh English.
Exactly. Exactly. How you think you're better than me? Is that what this is?
Yeah, like douche. Like, are you? So you've done a lot of rigging work.
Yeah.
Nice. Were you doing rigging with the cirque shows?
No, back then I didn't rig. It took me a while to get over my anxiety of heights. Yeah. Oh, no, it wasn't even the height anxiety. It's the fact that if I drop something, I'm going to kill the guy beneath me.
Pulling up chains.
Yeah. If I drop this shackle, this guy could die.
Totally.
I'm 110 feet above you. And I remember asking people, I was like, what do I do? And they go, don't fucking drop anything. And I go, all right. And eventually I just, you know what it was? It was confidence. That's what I've realized in working with power tools or rigging or comedy. It's just go into it with confidence. And if you go into something thinking I'm going to fail, you will manifest failure. I promise you. I've done it to myself many a times where I went into something too nervous, too anxious. And obviously you want a certain amount of that. Yeah. But if you go into something without confidence, same thing with talking to a woman when you're not confident. You're not getting anywhere. Yeah. You know, if you go to an audience and you don't have confidence, they smell that shit on you and you're done.
Totally.
And I think it's like that in any profession. I've come to realize, and that's why I've talked with guys like, I don't know how you can do that, and I was like, I don't know how you work that fucking job 9 to 5 every day, dude.
Yeah,
right.
We
can all not understand something else. You're just confident in what you do.
How does fear play in all that for you? Like, how does that like a tool? Is like the thing to fight against, but also like a tool.
I'm over most of my fear.
Nice.
Yeah, I got over it a while ago. In all honesty, that was... I got over the fear of being on stage very early on. And then it was just... I don't know, not to sound corny, but once you get over fear in life in general, right? Like I went through some really dark times and I had to come to terms with my own mortality. Mm-hmm. And I got really deep into Stoic philosophy. And I realized a lot of people, whether it was that thing we were talking about Western civilization where we fear being forgotten, we fear losing our legacy, we fear dying. And I remember reading some stuff from Seneca where he goes, we cry over the time after we're dead, but no one ever cries over the time before you were born. Mm. You're not around for either one. So what are you crying over? And whenever I remind myself, it's kind of, whenever a Roman general would come back from conquering people to Rome, they would do a parade called a triumph, and they would parade their slaves and the captured commanders. And you would sit on a throne carried by slaves, but there would also be a slave behind you who would whisper in your ear, you're going to die. Everything you have will turn to nothing, and you will be forgotten. And they would say this throughout the parade over and over again to humble them. And whenever I'm worried about something, I'm like, dude, I'm going to fucking die someday. What is it?
Yeah.
You know, I go, what's up?
How did they pick that slave?
Dude, I don't know. That's a good slave duty, though.
That's a good job.
That's a really good job. Yeah, the dude who gets to talk shit to Marcus Aurelius or Augustus. Yeah. That's
talk shit to Marcus Aurelius.
Not many people get to pull that one off.
It must. Yeah. No,
that's what I do. I remind myself that everything I do is finite, including my life. And then whenever I get worried about anything, I picture myself in my deathbed. And I go, am I going to give a fuck about this? Mm-hmm. When I'm old and I'm dying, am I going to think, oh, shit. Oh, I really wish I didn't piss those people off with that joke when I was in a Gunkwit, Maine, right? Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not, I'm going to be like, oh, man, I'm really sad I missed that day of work, for that job I didn't like. No, that's what totally. I do every time, whenever I think about anything.
That's super healthy. Like, that's something I think, like, more younger people should start doing earlier. Like just coming to terms with your death.
Dude.
Seriously,
I think that's why boomers are so fucking annoying, is because they're all afraid to die. I'm dead. I think as a generation, they had no spirituality, Eastern Zen philosophy, whatever you want to call it. They were just kind of like, everything now, I'm the center of the world. And then they kind of, I've watched a lot of older people, they get older and then they just like, I just retired from my job. What do I do other than drink myself to death? And I go live. You worked your whole life to go live, dude. Yeah, Now's your chance. Go fucking live. And they just don't. They don't know what to do.
It's fear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that takes practice too. You know, it takes a lot of, you know, self-awareness and work to be able to like allow yourself to do things like that, or to put yourself outside your comfort zone. And it just takes a lot of work, and maybe not everyone's open to it. Like, I do think that like the best lessons I've ever got have been being reminded I'm going to die. Like, I had this, when I was in college, I had this professor every day. He'd be like, all right, we got a quiz coming up. You could study for it or you could not, because realistically, C's earned degrees and we're all going to die. So fuck it. And like every day he'd be like, I just want to let you all know that you're going to die. And like, it was like every day this guy drilled this. And at a certain point you kind of get like, you know, first like what's the thing in comedy where it's like, it's funny and then you repeat it long enough and then it gets less funny and then it comes back around at a certain point. I don't know if there's a name for it, but it's like that, you know, at a certain point, like he broke us down with this to a point to get to that era. And like, it's easy to forget. I forget all the time, you know. I'll get like this fucking email and just like into dumb shit, but like annoyed with stuff. But like every time, you know, I can slow down and humble myself a bit and just like think about like that fact. It just is like the best tool I found to just like cleanse me of whatever like bullshit is bothering me. And I just like think everyone should practice that if they can.
It's good to, I think we'll kind of like, I've dealt with depression and anxiety. Like I think almost everyone in our society does. I think our society helps manifest it more than it already exists. And when you make yourself the focus, which obviously we're doing as people get on stage, but even your average person, you're putting a magnifying glass in your life when you get on social media, and it traps you at times. And you start to think every little thing is a big thing, and it isn't. And you as a person aren't a big thing. As much as I will get on stage, which I absolutely know it requires a portion of narcissism within me to want to do that. It fucking does. I'm talking to a room. I did it right now. I'm doing it right now with this thing. And I accept that.
You're talking to someone else who does the same. So
And
we can't see any of these people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who you are.
It's something you do. And you know what breaks it is realizing you're finite and small. I'll go hike a mountain and I will stand up there and I'm staring out at these other peaks and the wind is whipping around, the sun might be setting, and I go, oh, dude, I ain't shit. You know, like I'm like this. I think I realized that about all of us as people too during COVID, when we're like, oh, the world is at a standstill. No, human beings are at a standstill. The rest of the world, ducks are still flying, bears are still shitting in the woods. The world is still here. The world's going to be here, long before us and long after us. And whenever I come to terms with that, like that I'm this small thing in a big thing, it actually makes me feel better. It makes me feel so much. Being insignificant makes me feel so much better. I don't know.
Oh yeah. So I was like, my roommate one day was like in the kitchen, and I was like talking to her, and it was like, yeah, I just like, we were talking about like uselessness, you know, and I was just like, yeah, you know, like I just like was like, said something about like feeling useless or like in a working thing, and she was like, "That's awesome. Then you could never be used. You could just like no one could take advantage of you." And I was just like, "Fuck, that was really cool. Like that was really
that's
cool.
a good point. Yeah,
that was really cool." And it's just like things like that, right? Where it's like that's so rooted in our philosophy in our society, though, of like be useful, contribute, like give to society and everything. And it's just, you know, drilled into us. Part of that is also like we live in a society that's difficult to survive in, and that's challenging. And so we have to be valuable to make to get by. But like, I think the like insignificance, like recognizing that, like you know, like the stoic, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like the absurdism of it is like really healthy. Like super super positive. Like, this will end and I'm going to be nowhere. And I'm totally okay with that. I feel like just like COVID was useful for that, for me at least. Like, oh,
it nerfed my ego, man. When I was sitting on the couch and I was like, dude, my life is not where I thought it was going to be. I go, it actually worked out in the end. It honestly did. And what I had to realize, I actually needed COVID because I always thought I can't take a break from what I do because I'll get stale, and if I'm not doing it, I can't improve on it. When in reality, sometimes the only way you evolve is when you take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you only get better at dating once you're single. And same thing with doing whatever it is that you do, your job, your career. You sit there and you go, oh, now that I'm not doing it, I have time to think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And reformat, like kind of like a reboot of your whole system. I
think a lot of people had that experience last year. I certainly did. You know, like you get time to just like do the work that's hard. You know, that deep introspective work, but like it was so necessary. I have so many friends who, you know, made so much personal progress with things over the past year, and like I'm super proud of them. And like if things hadn't shut down, they wouldn't have had the chance probably, or it wouldn't have happened for them. But my biggest fear now is that we're all gonna forget. I don't think it will happen, but like
I hope it doesn't. I think about that too, dude.
It's the thing that like makes me freaked out on a couple levels. One, on an individual level, you know, like now, you know, going back to work and just hustling and just doing a bunch of shit. I'm just like, man, I remember when I just spent like 2 months like making songs in my room, and and I felt really good. Like that was nice. And so it's like, okay, how can I keep a piece of that, right? But also like on a broader societal level of like, I hope that more people are walking around being like, that was fucked up. Let's not write it off. Let's remember what happened. Let's be cognizant of it, so that we can like be prepared for whenever it happens again.
I think the same thing, because I think back on it now. In the process, I was so stressed out about money and my career and my life, because I'm like, oh, dude, I'm getting older. I'm not as young as I used to be. And I'm experiencing regret. And I had this realization, well, my cousin helped me come to it, that no matter what you do, you get regret. Mm-hmm. There is no life without regret. Even that rich musician who has all those fans, he might regret he never had a stable family. Whenever you walk down a road and it forks, you're always going to be faced with some idea of regret over the other option. Mm-hmm. Every fucking time. Mm-hmm. And he's going to make peace with that. Mm-hmm. No matter what life you do, you will have some manner of regret. And I came to terms with that, and I started the things that I thought I was miserable about, where I would just ride my bike down to the lake and I just sit there. I just stare at the water, perfectly quiet. And I was like, oh, dude, I never just listen to water, man. Yeah. It's me, the water, and the loons, and I'm staring at clouds. And I go, dude, clouds are kind of fucking badass, man. Like, and I'm not even fucked up right now. I'm just a dude on a dock staring at some clouds. And I go, dude, I've taught myself that this beautiful thing that I see all the time is nothing. I've grown contentment for it because I'm familiar with it. And I remember being inside, I was playing a video game and I'm climbing a mountain in the video game. And I'm like, I could go fucking climb a mountain outside. What am I doing? Yeah. And I go outside and I go, oh man, I'm trying to replace the thing that I've always had. And I'm working and buying these video games and to pay to watch some movie when I can just go do it. It's right there and it's fucking free.
Yeah, it's free, exactly.
And I miss that shit, honestly, because now I'm hustling like a bandit. And I was like, dude, I didn't hike any. I was supposed to hike all these mountains this summer. I haven't hiked a single one.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so good. The best thing that happened to me during COVID, I started surfing.
Yeah?
Yeah. And it's like, it offers the same thing you're talking about like biking down to see the loons and listen to the water. It's like when I paddle out to go for a surf, it's like completely quiet. No one's on their phone out there. Everyone's just so focused on this one activity, and you're just floating on the water. It's just like the most peaceful thing. And like finding this was like, oh, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Like it's just the greatest unplug, like greatest connection to like the ocean and the earth. And also it just has this incredibly humbling quality, because you're out there, the ocean's in charge. You're going to lose that battle every time. You have to work with it to get the payoff. And it's a massive amount of work that has a huge reward when you actually get a wave and get up. And it's nothing like nothing I've ever done before. I understand the spiritual nature that a lot of surfers have to it, because it's so challenging and so difficult, and there's so much things that could go wrong if you're not smart and safe about it. Like I've been out there like on days where like I paddled out too green, like for me, and like too big of a day. And it's like 7-foot waves out there, and I should not be out there. It's not safe. And I look back at the shore and realize I'm getting dragged out. Yeah. Like the tide's going out. Oh, I'm a fucking moron. I didn't check the tide. Holy shit. And now I'm panicked and like finally get back into the beach. And just sat on the beach for like 30 minutes, just staring out like that could have gone a different way. This was dangerous. Yeah. And like those experiences I've found were like super grounding and helpful when like you're in a position where you're like, I need to just go and do a bazillion things. And it's just so unhealthy. And since like COVID and surfing and making music and doing some cool drugs over the course of the pandemic, I I've been incredibly more productive from just slowing down and doing things like letting myself like relax, letting myself go spend time with people and not feeling like I'm going to have to do work and have to push myself to do all this work. Otherwise, like my career's not going to get where I want to get to. And I know so many artists that are just pushing like that. And like at a certain point, I'm just like, that's not how I want to live. No, if it's all pointless.
No, I was doing that with my life, and I was fucking miserable.
Yeah,
dude, I was miserable. And you know what it was for me? I hiked a mountain in New Hampshire, and it was a presidential, it was 5,000 footer. I didn't check the temperature. I almost got frostbite. I came real close to losing my ears on the top of this mountain. I was not prepared. I could have easily, been in a really bad situation. At the very least, frostbite, maybe worse, if I really like froze. Thankfully I didn't. And I got down and I was like, that was awesome. That was fucking awesome, dude. I told my friends, I was like, I did it. And they're like, you're an idiot. And I go, dude, I don't know, man. These near-death experiences are kind of fun. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. They kind of really made me chill out. And think.
Yeah. It does. It just humbles you in this extreme way.
Well, you probably realize surfing, not to fight it, right? Don't fight the ocean.
100%. So 100%. So like, yeah, it's.
Like, I took that away really hard. Was don't fight things. That I always knew when having a trip, like on mushrooms or whatever, don't fight it.
Yes.
I'm not in charge. Don't fight it. And then during one of these trips, not that long ago, I had this realization. I go, oh, dude, I've been fighting happiness all this time. Happiness is just trying to come here and make me happy, and I'm fighting it because it's not exactly the way I think it is.
Totally. I had this experience like in May with MDMA.
Yeah.
And like
I was on MDMA too. Oh.
Yeah. It was my first time. It was my first time. And I just like hit a point where I was like, oh man, I'm just like letting myself be mildly depressed underlying for no reason.
Yeah.
for it was just like what's the point of that? In that moment I was just like, there's literally no point. And like since that experience I've been like, ups and down sometimes, but like consistently way more happier. Just for whatever reason, like that clicked, and I was like, right, psychedelics.
I did the same thing, and it was on Molly too. So you heard it here, kids. Do Molly, but I had that same thing, and I go, and I had been getting here anyway. I remember doing mushrooms with my brother like a couple of years ago, and I remember laying on his floor, and I go, dude, I'm pretty lucky, man. I get a floor to lay on. Some people don't have a floor.
Yeah.
And I got a blanket, and this is the best blanket. And it might not be the best blanket in the world, but it's the best blanket for me right now.
Totally.
And I go, dude, I'm breathing. And I know this sounds like some corny drug stuff, but I go, I thought about the millions of years of evolution to get me here. And the mere fact that I'm breathing and existing, this magnificent miracle that is life, and me as a human being sitting here and breathing, and how lucky I am and how worse off my life could be. And all I think about is the shit I don't have and what I want, and what I need, and give me. And I'm like, dude, I got love, and I got friends, and I got a blanket, and I got a floor. It's just pretty badass. And there's heat in here. I could be outside, and it's cold outside. And I had one of those, and it blew me away. I go, oh shit, dude. I'm sitting here being unhappy over my follower count, over if people didn't like that video or that joke. I'm finding these little dinky things to be mad about and to be sad about, and they really ain't shit. In the grand scheme of everything, even when I've had big things to be sad about, I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's usually the smallest shit that gets to me. It's the littlest, most insignificant shit.
Dude, that's so common. Like, I totally get that. You know, like, I was talking to my friend today who's just like all, you know, like TikTok took down the audio of one of my videos and it was a whole thing. And, you know, and like, I get it, you know, that sucks, but like, it's insignificant in the end, you know, in the end, when you're on your deathbed, you know, but like having those realizations, like, I also think that like part of this is like we're just living in the most distracted era of human life that there's ever been. Like, it's increasingly gotten more and more distracting, like as we get further and further into like phones and we have to work extremely hard, do so many different things. It's challenging when, like, you know, it's probably way easier to appreciate the birds and the trees when your whole life is just about being with the birds and the trees. And like, I think that like it's just harder in the world we live in, like, you know, having the realization. And then it can be easy, I think, when you have this realization of like, oh shit, like I'm missing all this stuff, and like it can start to feel guilty or something, or, you know, like shaming. But it's like there's so much shit about our modern life that is distracting us that like it takes more work for us living today to, I think, to have that attention. And this is why like meditation and like Eastern philosophies or like practices are like so popular, I think, because it's like all rooted in generating that attention. And so like I think it's like the more things that anyone can do to just be more attentive, be more in the now, is just like do it.
Absolutely. I realized I let TikTok destroy my attention level.
Really?
I tried to sit down and watch a 2-hour movie and I was like, oh, 2 hours. And it's like, you've spent 2 hours on social media dicking off before, watching porn and doing whatever. Who are you? Can't contribute. You're going to waste these 2 hours anyway. So just sit down and do it, and don't pick it up. Don't pick up the phone. Yeah. And I was like, all right, I made it 30 minutes. I touched it. I go, fucking put it down, dude. I had like a fight, dude. Man, I don't drink anymore. And I had a worse time getting my phone away from me than I ever did booze.
Oh man, this was my whole week last week. Like I was like in Connecticut recording this album, living on a couch for a week, and like me and the other member of the band were just struggling with our phones. Just our phone relationship, when it was just like when we weren't tracking, there's a lot of like waiting. Yeah. So it's just easy to just be like manically on your phone. Just not even like doing shit, just like nothing. Opening an app, seeing there's no new notifications, and then going to another app to see that you also don't have emails. Then you check your text, but you're just checking shit, waiting for that dopamine hit. It's like the lowest addict point to be at, right? Right. It's not even you're not even getting the payoff. You're just like keep checking, you keep refreshing to see if it's gonna come soon.
At least heroin feels like an orgasm. Yeah. What does Instagram feel like? Oh, I gotta like, you know? It's like
yeah. It's like it's a sad one. It's disappointing.
It is, but it's a universal one.
Oh, totally.
It's worked on everyone.
Oh yeah, you're foolish, I think, to be like, it doesn't work on me. It's like, no, it will, because there's many times where I'm like, fuck that, like I don't care, and then the second I get like a video that does really well,
it feels good.
Then I'm just like, oh, I should do more of that. You know? And it's just like it gets me, you know, like. Yeah, I mean, when I released my album, like I had a few videos do really well, and I was like, I guess I got to do this more. And I think that like faded, and then I had shit bombs, and then it was great for me because it was like, oh yeah, that's the reality, and that's how this works. But
I gotta hire someone like I gotta get someone off of like Upwork or something to sit behind my ear and tell me you're gonna die and all your shit's gonna go away. I need someone.
I'll give you a very fair rate.
Yeah.
You're gonna fucking die.
Yeah, just put an earpiece in. Like all your achievements are gonna turn to ash. It's all gonna go away.
Your skin will be sauce someday.
Shit. Well, dude, thanks for coming on. I gotta wrap this up in a little bit. Yeah. So, you're still teaching?
Yeah. It's coming back to in person teaching, and making music, and I do sound design work too. So like do some like for documentaries and films or whatever as they come. Small amount, but yeah, that's that broad strokes of things. Teaching, production work. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's good to have your how do I put this? Not focus your career just in one place. You know, you're still doing what you're doing, but you're doing it in different avenues, and that's what I've realized.
Yeah, totally. I mean, COVID kind of woke me up for that too, being like, I don't know if long term just focusing on performance is the way. So I wanted to bring production into that too, technical skills.
I mean, it looks great, man. I looked at your stuff, and it's fantastic. I definitely really liked your electronic stuff.
Thanks, man.
Because I'm always looking for things to put on, not just to listen to, but in the background. But you know what I did that I didn't do? This COVID did. I sat down and I listened to music, but just the music.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, this is what those dudes in the 70s were doing when they put on a record, and you just listen to the whole record.
Yeah.
But you just listen to the music, because always it was music in the background. And then I just laid on a couch and I listened to music, and I go, dude, this is fucking kind of awesome, man. I didn't, how did I let this thing pass me by so often just to listen to music?
I miss it too. I do this all the time still.
Yeah.
You know, like yeah, it's the best that way. You know, like I mean, last week me and some of my friends, we were just like sat on the couch and just like played songs for each other.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like, oh man, it's like, right, that's what this is. And listening to an album start to finish is special, very special. And
I miss it, dude.
We don't let ourselves do it enough.
Because it's the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly, the album is like a movie, and a single song is just like a snippet of it.
Yes.
And there might be a great scene, you know, that's that scene with in Reservoir Dogs, you
Yeah.
know, but a dude gets blown away. But at the same time, when it's a part of a greater whole, it's pretty fucking badass.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's like the piece of advice I want to give myself and more people is just like put an album on and just like let it play until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And then go on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like,
Listen to the whole Dark Side of the Moon and just be like the full roller coaster ride.
Totally. Yeah. Like fuck, man. A few of my friends have been doing that, but with heavy doses of mushrooms at the same time.
No, it's fun.
Yes.
Or even what I forgot about was when you would listen to, say, an old rap album and they do skits in there, and you go, I forgot all about this, man. I forgot that this was an experience.
Skits.
Yeah.
I forgot about
like
that.
Eminem or what, D's Nuts
Yeah,
came
yeah,
from
yeah.
an album, man.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a fundamental, who's that? D's Nuts? It's a fundamental part of our culture. It was just it was a filling point in an album in between songs.
Yeah, it made you feel like you were in their world, in
It
their day to day.
Yes, it did.
And that was special. It wasn't just like, you know, some abstract place. It was like you're like in their kitchen, and that was like really, really cool. Yeah, listen to albums.
Yeah, guys, do mushrooms, do MDMA, listen to albums.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on Spotify, Kyle Harris. You can find me on Bandcamp, also that for my music, and then Instagram, Kyle Harris, but the I is a 1 because I'm too generic, and that's how it goes, you know, with all my shit. But same thing, I'm on YouTube, just Kyle Harris, and just like my album's called Frames, came out in April, and yeah, working on more shit. So hope for more people to hear it.
Absolutely, and hopefully some people here can find your stuff. Go to your classes if you're in the Boston area.
If you need drum lessons, bostondrumlessons.com.
Absolutely.
Boom.
Well, thanks for coming on again.
Thanks for having me, man.